Episode 77. The situation with Mishu had already been a big blow to her, right? Not to mention the culprit behind Tan Hui's father's bankruptcy. Let me see now. I have to make a plan to get justice for Tan Hui's father. I promised her before she passed away, and Hua was indeed tired from the trip, but she wanted to know who her enemy was as soon as possible. For Shen Ling to have gotten this information in 3 months, it meant that the person behind Tan Hui's father's bankruptcy had to have significant influence. It wouldn't be easy to get justice against someone like that, but perhaps with Ren Yuan and Nan Shen's help, she could succeed. Prepare your heart, Shen Ling sighed as he stood up to get the document. It had been so hard to gather this information because a powerful force had been trying to suppress it. Once he found out who was behind it, he couldn't help but feel pity for Tan Hua and her complicated life. Prepare my heart? Tan Hua tilted her head in confusion as she watched Shen Ling walk to his room to get the document. When Shen Ling said that she needed to prepare her heart, Tan Hua suddenly had a bad feeling. Here, read it carefully. Shen Ling returned to the living room with the document in his hand. He reluctantly handed the document to Tan Hua while preparing hot tea and a towel, just in case Tan Hua fainted after reading it. Thanks. Tan Hua took the document and flipped it over carefully. The first page only had the title of the document, which was a secret report, so she immediately turned to the second page to continue reading. Let's see. Tan Hui's father owned a diamond mine back in the day. His business was mining, and the diamonds produced in his mine were of the highest quality. In the past, even Ren Yuan's company always bought diamonds from Tan Hui's father's mine. Oh, so Tan... It explained how he managed the mine, built a company that provided diamonds and other precious stones to jewelry companies, and eventually went bankrupt. Huh? Suddenly went bankrupt? Tan Hua flipped the page and saw that, in less than 10 years, the company suddenly faced a massive setback from a failed project. The project wasn't named, but it was a large-scale project involving many major companies abroad. Go on, read more. You'll find out why the company suddenly went bankrupt. Shen Ling urged her to continue reading, when he heard Tan Hua's surprised remark. The most important part of the report was actually near the end, so it was normal for Tan Hua to be puzzled by the information up until this point. All right. Tan Hua flipped the pages again and saw that the report said that, before Tan Hui's father's company went bankrupt, Ren Yuan's company had offered to buy the mine at a high price. Since Ren Yuan's company was in the jewelry business, he was naturally interested in purchasing the mine. Ren Yuan offered to buy the mine. Tan Hua's heart began to race for an unknown reason. She felt a little anxious as she flipped to the next page. The report explained that Tan Hui's father had refused to sell the mine, even though the price Ren Yuan offered was much higher than the market value at the time. The reason Tan Hui's father gave was that the mine had been passed down by his ancestors, so he couldn't bring himself to sell it. Tan Hua read on, and discovered that after Ren Yuan's offer was rejected, he suggested a mega project involving several big companies abroad. Tan Hui's father didn't refuse the project, but he didn't realize that, by agreeing, he had already fallen into someone else's trap. This is the important part. Keep reading to find out why Tan Hui's father failed the big project and ended up in massive debt instead of gaining wealth. Shen Ling's face had already turned sour as he urged Tan Hua to continue reading. If he could, he wouldn't want Tan Hua to read this, but since she insisted, he had no choice. Tan Hua nodded and continued reading the report, her eyes widening in shock. This! Tan Hua's hand trembled as she continued reading. From the report, no one knew the truth behind the failure of Tan Hui's father's company. Not even the media, but this secret report wrote something different. Everyone thought that Tan Hui's father's failure was his own mistake, due to not being able to provide the diamonds needed by those big companies, resulting in disadvantages for them. But in fact, there was more to the story. The one behind the failure of Tan Hui's father was actually Ren Yuan. Ren Yuan had already planned for Tan Hui's father to fail the project, and had to pay for the loss since he had signed a contract agreeing to that. His plan began the moment he offered the big project to Tan Hui's father. In fact, Ren Yuan got someone else's help to steal the diamonds in the mine and destroy half of the mines after stealing all the valuable materials there, resulting in a lot of damage to Tan Hui's father's mine. He had to provide a lot of quality diamonds and precious stones, but much of it was stolen, and his mine was destroyed. Even after mining again, the amount of diamonds and precious stones he obtained in a certain period of time, as settled by the other company, wasn't enough. In the end, the other companies were furious because they had invested a lot in this project, which required a large amount of diamonds and precious stones. Now, The one who promised to provide them with all the diamonds and precious stones needed couldn't fulfill the demand. They suffered quite a loss.
He did that?
Ren Yuan? Tan Hua had already begun to suspect something when she read that Ren Yuan was the one plotting this. But of course, this didn't end just like that. To her surprise, the one helping Ren Yuan in doing all the dirty deeds was none other than Nan Shen. Nan Shen was the one using his power as a big boss of the underworld to do this dirty deed to Tan Hui's father's diamond mine. This can't be true. Tan Hua's hand trembled as she looked at Shenling with suppressed rage. Could it be the report was altered somehow? Why, Shenling? She knew that this man hated Nan Shen, so it could be his doing to falsely accuse Nan Shen. You don't believe me? Shenling shook his head, seeing Tan Hua in disbelief. Why would he go to such lengths to alter the report just to falsely accuse Nan Shen? He was busy too, and didn't have the time or energy for something like that. But Tan Hua read the report again several times to make sure she hadn't read it wrongly, but what was written in the report remained the same. Ren Yuan was the mastermind behind the downfall of Tan Hui's father's mine, while Nan Shen was his accomplice. In the report, after Tan Hui's father failed the project and sank into huge debt, he could only sell his half-destroyed mine to Ren Yuan at a lower price than what was originally offered. At this point alone, he could only pay off half of his debt. Tan Hui's father tried to find out who was behind the destruction of his mine, since he too knew that this didn't happen naturally. Someone must have played a dirty trick behind his back. But, unfortunately, Ren Yuan used his authority to cover up everything that happened to the mine. Tan Hui's father never found out the culprit. In the end, Tan Hui's father was chased around by debt collectors. He had to sell all his properties except his house, but his company and stocks were all sold off. Still, the debt wasn't cleared. In order not to involve his family, Tan Hui's father borrowed money from loan sharks to pay the debt to the other companies. He believed that he could set up another business soon, but it seemed that Ren Yuan didn't let Tan Hui's father do so. Using his connections, he suppressed Tan Hui's father until he couldn't start a new business to pay off the debt he owed to the loan sharks. In the end, Tan Hui's father became depressed and chose to end his life, leaving his wife and 3 children behind. Still, even in this situation, Tan Hui's mother didn't abandon Tan Hu and Tan Hu, who weren't even her real children. Tan Hui's mother tried to survive by working as a hostess and doing whatever she could to make a living for her 3 children while trying to escape from the loan sharks. At that time, Tan Hua was still a small child, so she didn't remember much, but they often moved from place to place. The family often slept on the streets since none of their relatives was willing to help. They were afraid of the loan sharks coming after them too. Tan Hui's mother persisted in doing this for several years, but eventually, she too succumbed to the pressure and chose to end her life. The family of 3, starting with the father, the mother, and then the daughter, had all ended their lives in such tragic ways. It was truly an irony. No. Tan Hua nearly tore the document after reading it several times. That's the truth. What are you going to do now? Shenling patted Tan Hua's back, trying to calm her down. He already knew that the girl would react like this. Who wouldn't anyway? Anyone would be shocked when they found out that the one they loved was involved in their adopted father's bankruptcy. Let me rest first. Tan Hua bit her lip as she went to her room. Her body wobbled as she walked, and her face turned as pale as a sheet of paper. Don't hesitate to talk to me if you need anything. Shenling didn't want to disturb Tan Hua, seeing the girl was not in her right mind, but he was still worried that she might do something drastic in her depression. He absolutely couldn't let Tan Hua be alone in this situation. Let's just cancel all his job schedules. Why? Tan Hua plopped down onto her bed as tears flowed from her eyes. She had been so happy that Nan Shen had recovered his memories, but then this suddenly came. Nan Shen. He was one of the people who caused Tan Hui's father to go bankrupt. Tan Hua gripped her bedsheet as she cried her frustration out. She really hated those people who caused Tan Hui's whole family to fall into ruin. The death of Tan Hui's parents was, in part, because of the huge debt. The debt came from the bankruptcy of Tan Hui's father, and it turned out that someone was behind the bankruptcy. But how could this be? How could Ren Yuan and Nan Shen be the people behind this? She had already sworn to Tan Hui that she would seek revenge on those big shots who might have been behind her father's bankruptcy. But how could she seek revenge when the ones responsible were Ren Yuan and Nan Shen? What should I do? Tan Hua muttered to herself as she sobbed. Her heart ached so much from the betrayal she had just learned about. She lost her best friend in a day, as well as the man she loved. Nan Shen took part in Tan Hui's father's bankruptcy. She had sworn to seek revenge on anyone who made Tan Huai's whole family suffer. But what did she get? She had to seek revenge on the man she loved so much. Tears kept falling down Nan Hua's cheeks as the girl was deep in a dilemma. On one hand, she didn't want to seek revenge on Nan Shen, but on the other hand, her heart ached knowing this painful truth.
Why? Why?
Nan Shen, why would you be the one to make Tan Hui's family suffer? Ren Yuan too, the one who was her best friend's boyfriend, was also the mastermind behind all of this. Is this her fate? An ironic fate where she had to go against the people she loves? Why couldn't it be other people who made Tan Huai's family suffer? Why does it have to be Ren Yuan and Nan Shen? What should she do now? She hated the people who made Tan Hui suffer, but how could she seek revenge on Ren Yuan and Nan Shen? She didn't have the heart to do it. Someone. Anyone. Help me. Nan Shen, where were you going last night? Mai Shu leaned closer to Nan Shen, who sat across from her on the plane. Why would you know? It's not your business. Nan Shen ignored Mai Shu as he stared at his phone without blinking. He was sure that Tan Hua had already arrived back in their country, so she should have read the message by now, right? But what if she hadn't read the message? What if she read it but didn't believe him? What was she doing now? Was she fine or not? Nan Shen's mind was full of Tan Hua. Now that he had recovered his memories, he wanted to quickly redeem himself for the mistakes he made when he lost his memories. He was such a fool. He would make sure that this time, he wouldn't make Tan Hua cry. He would make her the happiest woman alive in this world. Right. What about proposing to her? His parents wouldn't be against it, and as for that old, strict grandpa, as long as he met Tan Hua, maybe he would give his blessing to them. Nan Shen subconsciously grinned as he thought about all the things he had in mind. He planned to surprise Tan Hua by proposing to her, but little did he know that his plan wouldn't go as smoothly as he imagined. While Nan Shen was grinning like an idiot, on the other hand, Ren Yuan was frowning, seemingly in a bad mood. He was now 100% sure that the girl beside him wasn't the real Mi Shu. This girl was so brazen to ask Nan Shen in that seductive tone of voice, while he was right here beside her. Did this girl think her impression of Mi Shu was perfect? He didn't know how the heck this imposter could look so much like Mi Shu, but just look at her. Mai Shu, please be safe. He silently vowed to find the real Mi Shu, who this girl probably had hidden away, and once he found her, he would expose this imposter right away. Mi Shu, where are you right now? Just wait, I will find you. Ren Yuan tightened his fist as he glared at Mi Shu, who was busy looking at Nan Shen with love-struck eyes. This girl here couldn't possibly be the same Mi Shu he knew. Just look at her behavior. This girl obviously had feelings for Nan Shen. Ren Yuan gritted his teeth, swearing to expose the girl he suspected to be an imposter, unaware that someone else was resenting him at that very moment. So, what will you do? Shenling carefully asked Tan Hua, who was silently eating her dinner. From how red her eyes were, Shenling could guess that the girl had just cried in her room. Of course, he understood how difficult it must be for Tan Hua, but in the end, they needed to do something. I will meet Nan Shen to confirm things first before deciding. Tan Hua rubbed her eyes as she gulped her drink with an emotionless face. She had been thinking a lot about this matter and what she had to do in the future, yet still, her feelings were in turmoil now. She couldn't think straight, so it would be better to decide things later when she was more clear-headed. Okay, don't feel too pressured by this matter. Remember that any time you need my help, I'll gladly help. Shenling nodded his head, respecting Tan Hua's decision. The girl seemed emotionally unstable right now, so if he asked more just because of his curiosity, it would only open her old wounds. Right now, it was important to let Tan Hua calm down before letting her do anything. Things escalated too fast for her, so she must be exhausted from all the drama she had faced so far. Man, I will. For now, I'll wait until Nan Shen comes back to talk to him. Before that, I'll take a rest. I'm tired. Tan Hua didn't look at Shenling as she spoke. Her eyes focused on the food in front of her, but she didn't really look at it. Her eyes might have been on the food, but her mind was somewhere else. Her gaze was empty, and her movements while eating were sluggish. Shenling, who saw this, couldn't help but get worried. Even though the girl said she was all right, she didn't look it. Tan Hua was absent-minded even while eating dinner. How could he not worry? Not to mention the trace of tears on her cheek, now dried, told him that the girl had cried a lot before. Just look at those red and swollen eyes. Just how much had she cried until her eyes became like that? Go sleep and don't think about anything for now. Shenling felt awkward. He could only pat Tan Hua's head, trying to console her, even though he really didn't know what to do in this situation. He had never consoled anyone before, so he didn't know how to make Tan Hua feel slightly better, or maybe cheer her up completely. I will. Tan Hua stood up and left the empty plate on the table before heading to her room, staggering like a drunkard. Tomorrow, she would meet Nan Shen and clarify all of this before deciding what action she should take. She had thought long and hard about this while venting her sadness away through tears, and finally arrived at one solution. The revenge plan. She would still do it, but not to the extent of harming them. She had a better way to make them suffer, even though she was reluctant to make the one she loved suffer. But she had no other choice. She had sworn to seek revenge, and on the other hand, Nan Shen had greatly hurt her. This could be treated as payback for what he had done to her when he lost his memories. Did he think she would just let it go like that? She had feelings too, right? Let Nan Shen know the pain she felt back then when he treated her so coldly. Tan Hua quickly messaged Nan Shen to make an appointment. She was sure the man would want to meet her too, since he must want to explain the misunderstanding with Mi Shu back then, directly to her in person. Let's meet at D Cafe at 8 a.m. I have something important to talk about. The next day, Nan Shen whistled happily as he put on his shirt. Last night, when he arrived, he had received a message from Tan Hua wanting to meet him in the morning. He was just about to think of the same plan when Tan Hua beat him to it. Tan Hua also wants to meet me. Nan Shen couldn't help but think. The man was grinning from ear to ear, imagining what they would do when they met. Right. He had to return the ring to Tan Hua, but this time he would return the ring and also propose to her. He could just propose first before telling his family about it. At that time, he would see if any of his family could oppose the marriage. Little did he know, his plan would require more effort than he anticipated. D Cafe, second floor. Tan Hua looked at the clock on the wall in the room and saw that she had arrived quite early, 15 minutes before the appointment. The girl chose a private room in the cafe and was now waiting for Nan Shen to come, trying to compose her heart to calm down. She would meet Nan Shen, who had already regained his memories, so of course she felt a bit nervous. Not to mention that their conversation later would be serious. She needed to strengthen her heart and be prepared for anything that could happen. Let's do this. Once and for all. Welcome, alone or with friends? A waiter greeted Nan Shen, who had just arrived at the cafe. The man glanced at his silver wristwatch, the newest Louvre brand design, as he walked toward the nearest table. Alone, I'm waiting for someone, Nan Shen answered mildly without looking at the waiter. The waiter observed Nan Shen from his head to his toes and couldn't help but think that the man somehow looked familiar. Isn't this the famous young master of the Nan family? The waiter saw Nan Shen in a plain blue shirt coupled with dark blue jeans, looking very simple and casual, not really resembling the air of a famous company in town. Maybe it's just someone similar, the waiter thought as he silently left Nan Shen to sit down on the chair near the window. The man looked busy with his phone, so he didn't want to disturb him until Nan Shen called to order something. Where is she? Nan Shen silently thought as he checked his phone for any messages. It was already 8 a.m., and he was here at the cafe. But he didn't see Tan Hua anywhere. Nan Shen was just about to ask the waiter if he had seen a girl coming in when he suddenly got a message on his phone. Private room number 2, second floor. Tan Hua is already here. Upon seeing the message, Nan Shen subconsciously smiled. He quickly stood up and asked the waiter to guide him to the private room on the second floor. Here it is, the room. The waiter smiled at Nan Shen before leaving him alone. From how this customer visited a private room, he must be someone important. The waiter didn't want to disturb or make Nan Shen angry, so he left Nan Shen in front of the door to the private room numbered 2. Nan Shen looked at the door in front of him with slight nervousness. He knew he had hurt Tan Hua a lot when he didn't remember her, so now, meeting her again after regaining his memories. This felt awkward. No, he couldn't hesitate any longer. He had to smile, listen to what Tan Hua wanted to say, and continue with his own plan. It's all right, he could do this. Nan Shen opened the door to the private room, and the moment he opened the door, he saw a beautiful girl in a sky blue one-piece, sitting on a sofa, facing the door. The girl raised her head when she heard the sound of the door opening, and at that moment, their eyes met each other. Ba-thump! Nan Shen's heart skipped a beat when his eyes met Tan Hua's. For no reason, he just felt that Tan Hua looked especially beautiful today. Was it because he hadn't looked at her this way when he lost his memories? Tan Hua wasn't wearing any makeup, and only dressed casually in a sky blue one-piece. The skirt reached her knee, and the dress had thin straps hanging on her shoulder, showing her bare shoulder along with her smooth white arms. Her blonde hair fell on her neck, not covering her shoulder at all. Around her neck was a sparkling silver necklace, that Nan Shen recognized very well. It was the necklace he gave her. "Hi." Nan Shen's face reddened a bit as he greeted Tan Hua with an awkward greeting. He didn't know why, but just seeing Tan Hua sitting on the sofa made him feel flustered. Is it only his imagination? Or did Tan Hua look different from usual? There was this mysterious, elegant aura around her that wasn't there before. Usually, she radiated a cheerful, almost foolish, like aura. Somehow, Tan Hua looked more mature than her usual self. "Oh, long time. No see." Tan Hua squeezed out a formal, businesslike smile as she motioned for Nan Shen to sit on the sofa across from her. Even though the seat next to her was empty, the girl immediately directed Nan Shen to sit across from her. This action greatly confused Nan Shen. He thought that Tan Hua would run to him and hug him or something, but why did it feel like a business meeting rather than a lover's reunion? Don't tell him she was still angry about the situation with Mishu? Did she read his explanation? Wait, maybe he had to explain it directly to her. So Nan Shen gulped nervously as he sat down on the sofa. The man was about to break the awkward atmosphere between them by directly explaining the situation with Mishu, when Tan Hua suddenly threw a stack of papers onto the table. Huh? What's this? Nan Shen looked at the paper on the table and couldn't help but furrow his eyebrows. Paper? What kind of paper was this? Why would Tan Hua give him paper? Take a look at the paper first. Tan Hua smiled sweetly. But Nan Shen could see that her smile didn't reach her eyes, making him confused. Was it just his imagination, or did Tan Hua seem cold? Let's just see the paper first. Nan Shen reluctantly took the paper and read the content carefully. Maybe it was about news or something, but what he found wasn't what he expected. The paper was about the bankruptcy of Tan Hui's father's company. It wasn't mentioned who was behind it, and only the actual news was written in the paper. This is Tan Hui's father's bankruptcy? Nan Shen raised one of his eyebrows, feeling a bit familiar with this case. On one hand, he knew about what happened from Tan Hua before. But on the other hand, he vaguely remembered doing something related to this case in the past.